What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy, bringing you another gold nugget that you can either pick up or you can just kick it aside. You know, I want to share this video with you about President Ruto of Kenya. He announced early part of this year about doing vaccinations for his cattle and his lambs and all these other animals for the sake of disease control. But what we really don't understand is when Bill Gates, who have started an initiative and will tell you out of his own mouth that it's something they're pushing supposedly for the control of the environment. There is something hidden behind the scenes. Check out the video. I'll be back.
Ya kwamba January we are starting the process of vaccinating 22 million heads of cattle and 50 million heads of sheep and goats to make sure that we deal with disease control so that we can access both national and international markets for our beef, our mutton, and all the other products that we are working on.
Yeah, so there's basically two ways to help with cows. Cows are about 5% of global emissions, which is pretty unbelievable.
Wild.
And if your goal is to get to zero, you don't get to skip the cows or the steel or the cement or, any of those big areas. So there's a whole class of solutions of making meat without cows. Today, it doesn't taste as good and it costs too much. It's going through a little bit of a lull, but, those companies, Impossible Beyond, Memphis and others, are pursuing that. In terms of the cows, we pursued many solutions. So one is to vaccinate the cows in a way that their gut bacteria that emit the methane, which is also called natural gas or CH4, which is the second most important greenhouse gas, you can vaccinate them and that species of bacteria isn't there. Their stomachs are very special because they can eat grass. It's a 3-stage fermentation process, basically. There's another way you can change what they eat, and you could either put that in their water or their feed. There is a drug to change the microbiome, not a vaccine, but a drug. That looks very promising. And then there's a solution where you stick a sort of a metal thing into the skin of the cow, and it actually burns the methane. And all of these look to be quite cheap and implementable even in Africa. And so this is one where I wasn't hopeful when I got started a decade ago. And now it's just a question of which solution for which country ends up being the best.
What do you think? I'll say this right here. First and foremost, the ignorance of African leaders who do not understand what is coming down the pike when you talk about dealing with Westerners who want to have influence in your country and control what you do over your people, your governments, your animals, your agriculture, and etc. Bill Gates has this initiative that he wants to do away with these gases that are emitted by cows and other animals. And you just heard the silly things that he has said about trying to change the biome of a cow to where it will change the bacteria so that they don't emit these gases. But has anybody thought about these animals were created for a purpose? And by changing the biome of an environment will cause travesty, or it will create a devastation amongst the animal field as well as us as a people. Can you imagine vaccinating these animals that changes their whole makeup, their DNA, and we're turning around eating it? What does it do to our bodies? What does it do to us as a people when we begin to take on the very thing that we eat? As they say, you are what you eat. Why is it that there are these people out here who tries to change nature? We know they want to go ahead and graft different types of foods and animals and create all different type of things that's outside the nature of God. But nobody shakes a stick at it, or nobody even has a comment about it until years later when we find that People are getting sicker. Things have changed. And now all of a sudden they want to go ahead and do something different. I tell you this right here. He even tells that giving them different ways, food sources, or, trying to put metal beams and bars inside their skin is sickening. And we all should be sharing this video to push it throughout the world to show them this is not the way to go. Now, I know our African leaders who sit out here and receive money for these so-called programs that they come up with. They need to understand you're going to cause a huge problem within your community, your country. No different than when you thought that receiving the vaccine for sicknesses and it was nothing but the HIV. And Africa felt the brunt of the whole dynamics of sickness across the globe when it came to AIDS and HIV, which still lingers to this day in many countries, all because of the fact that ignorance of our leaders, of a people who don't know who they're dealing with. I'll say this in closing. If we don't wake up and realize that in Scripture, when God said that your enemies are those who you were sold to as bondmen and bondwomen, your enemies are those who you were sold to. Those who bought you, enslaved you, are your enemies. So their whole mindset on how they do business is totally different than how we should do business. It's time for us to wake up, family. This is your man, not your boy, bringing you another gold nugget that you can either pick up or you can just kick it aside.
Think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it.